Okay, so now let me have you take a deep breath, hang on tight because we're going to go right into the meat now of today's discussion. So, as promised, we're going to take a careful look at what's called the production pipeline. We're going to take a careful look at the design and development process for an entertainment project. So as we cover the principles of color and light, you'll have an understanding of how those principles will be applied to your professional career in the different aspects and skills that an art department has to deliver. So this is a generic overview. It's primarily centered around what happens in an animated film. That's primarily where my expertise lies. But there's a lot of similarity in any entertainment design project. For instance, the art department of a video game would have a very similar transition as they explore their story in their game. Some of the ancillary parts are a little bit different, especially plugging the artwork into the gaming engine. But you and I, we're not tech guys. Maybe you are. I can't make the same claim, but we're going to focus primarily on the art department. Right up here, right in the middle. It's in the middle, it's in red, it's more important than anything else up here. So says me, anyway. So for us, in animation, it all begins with a written outline. Usually it's not a full script. It is a 10-page treatment, an overview of the story. That script, or I should call it, I'll stick with the term treatment, is handed off to story artists and the art department who begin to explore the subject. And so in the art department, we read the script, we identify who the characters are, what the locations are, and then we start to do exploratory sketches, paintings, and roughs to feel out how this project will look. After we've made some progress in that direction and have created an overview of the look and feel of the show, we'll go into a color script. And once we have those things established, we'll go into official location design, formal location design, prop design, because every single thing that appears in every single location has to be designed by an artist. And then once the design and the development process is completed, then artists do color and lighting keys, sketches and paintings that are meant to look like a finished frame of the project, so it can be handed to the final departments where the lighting departments lights up the digital set which has been composited to make those scenes look just like you as the artist have laid out in your color and lighting keys. There's all these ancillary departments, and I'm going to talk with you about how the art department interacts with those. There's also matte painting that is happening around the same time that color and lighting keys are being done for final design and work that appears in the project. So let me make some general comments about this for you, and then we'll go into specifics and take a look at each one of these areas where you have to understand the necessary skills so that you can do this kind of work professionally. I bring up this film for a specific reason. I'm going to take a guess here. I'm going to guess at least a few of you, maybe even several of you, who are listening to the sound of my voice right now and have high hopes for this presentation, went and saw Avatar when it came out a few years back. And if you're like the general public who went to it in droves and made it, what was it, something like a $2.7 billion movie, oh my gosh. You know, I envy the people who had a little tiny piece of the action on that. And in fact, I know one of those people, which is why I bring up the subject. So I'm going to make a bet that some of you who went and saw this show, and maybe you were an art student at the time, hopeful of becoming an artist, you went and saw it, and if you had the reaction to the film that the public seemed to have, you were absolutely captivated by the spectacle and the design, the adventure, and the grandeur of the show. People loved it. I enjoyed it too. I thought it was a great film. I thought it was a fantastic epic, and I thought there was really great design work and attention to lighting and detail and so forth. And so you saw that film, you went home, and you looked at the artwork that little old you was doing, and you felt about 3 inches tall. Maybe you've had the same experience with this class so far, because I've gone out of my way. I really want to show you the best work being done out there. That's why I went to some effort to secure permissions from DreamWorks to show work from some of their best artists, which we've been looking at so far. And maybe you've had the same response. You've looked at some of that work and you said, oh my gosh, I'm years, if not decades away from doing anything like that. Well, what I want to do now is actually take a moment to reassure you, because every person is very small in the larger structure of the pipeline, where often some 1,000 people and more are contributing. So one of my friends that I met at the Art Center College of Design, where we went to school, he and I both had a similar experience in that we went to school, we weren't 100% sure exactly where our professional careers were going to go. All we knew is we desperately wanted to be artists. We desperately wanted to do really great artwork. Well, at that particular time in the early 90s, there were big transitions happening in the commercial art world. Print illustration was, frankly, dying, and entertainment art was just about to emerge into the blossoming that it has now, but it hadn't quite yet. So I went into school thinking that I was going to be, some kind of a commercial illustrator, but not for sure that I was going to go into entertainment. And my friend who I'm discussing with you here had the same kind of dilemma. I remember a conversation we had one time where he was concerned. He and I both had the same concern. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be out of school in a year. I've got to compete. I've got to get a job. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. Guys, it's scary. And it's okay if you're concerned. It's okay if you look at some of the best artwork being done out there thinking that you have to compete with that. Well, my friend, who had the same concerns that I had, same concerns that you had, did his very best. He did some professional work out of school. He even came and joined us at DreamWorks, and rapidly, he just shot, I thought he was a good artist in school. He rapidly moved into art direction at DreamWorks and did fantastic work. And he moved on from DreamWorks straight into, you guessed it, he was one of the concept design art directors on Avatar. And so those concerns that he had in school, all of that, instead of discouraging him and pushing him to quit or give up, it drove him to push harder and to do better, eventually leading him to something that he is really proud of and that I'm really proud of him for. But it wasn't always rosy. It hasn't been for me. It hasn't been for him. For instance, one of the early jobs that he sought when he got out of school, he did what a lot of us did getting out of school. He put in his portfolio at Walt Disney. And his experience in putting his portfolio in wasn't at all what he hoped it would be. There was kind of this trend at the time. When we were in school, people were putting together their portfolio in outrageous ways. They were printing and making plates of all of their illustrations, putting them all in a box like a briefcase, and elaborately and personally designing the briefcase with rivets and with stainless steel, that sort of thing. That was kind of a trend. And this guy, I'm not mentioning his name because I don't know if he wants too much attention, but he did that with his portfolio. He made it really shiny and aggressive and really put a lot of care and effort into it, turned it into Walt Disney Studios. So he dropped it off just like he was instructed to, and somehow as those portfolios were being moved to the place where they were going to be reviewed, his got set aside and left in a hallway. A little bit later on, somebody notices this mysterious, scary-looking briefcase standing in the hallway at Walt Disney Studios. Sooner than you know it, there was a call to 911 about a bomb scare. I'm not kidding. No one wanted to open up that thing with the fear that there was something in it that was going to detonate. We all hope that they open our portfolio and it detonates metaphorically with excitement. He didn't want this to be literal. That wasn't what he wanted to happen, but he has a great story to tell about it. Suffice it to say that he didn't get that particular job. Well, he got better jobs. Ultimately, with the persistence, he got to be one person out of thousands that contributed to a project that he and the movie-going public was really proud of. And for me, I've had exactly the same experience. For me, while I was in school, the big special effects epic that came out at that time was Jurassic Park. Well, I was just like every other 9-year-old boy who knew everything that you could know about dinosaurs at the time. You know, a lot of us were and are like that, just fascinated on a subject like that. We had memorized the scientific name of every single dinosaur. We could tell you that a Hypsilophodont was originally believed to be a tree climber because of a certain structure to the legs, arms, and the claws, but then later, better scientific discovery showed that after the fact that was not true, that it wasn't a tree dweller after the fact. We loved this esoteric stuff about dinosaurs, just like every other kid. And so I went to see Jurassic Park and was just flabbergasted. No one else had made realistic monsters like that. CG animation was brand new. We had never seen that before. And to see a real dinosaur romping around like in that film, it was incredible. I really loved the movie. It was a spectacle. It was a romp. It was an adventure. Went back and saw it a couple of times. And each time I came back, I was halfway through school at that point, and each time I came back and looked at the artwork that I was doing, guys, I felt like a nobody. I felt like my work just couldn't compete. And yet, I'm proud to say, instead of that driving me to quit and to lose interest, I feel like I took it the right way. It pushed me to try a little bit harder. And it was just a couple of years after that, just a couple of years after Jurassic Park, and I got out of school and I got hired onto DreamWorks' first epic animated film, The Prince of Egypt. I was the new guy. I had a lot of learning to go through, but I got to contribute to what was our epic and our big production, and was very proud of being able to make a contribution to that project. So, in my own small way, just one little guy, but I got to be a part of it, and you will too. So let's go through the key parts of our pipeline then.